ready? All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Jeff Burke, Superintendent here in Splendora ISD, and we're so thankful that you're joining us tonight on Facebook Live. While we're waiting for folks to join, before I actually start the presentation, I want to talk about some good things that are going on in our district. Lots of things to celebrate in Splendora ISD, so if you'll allow it, I'll just go ahead and read a little bit. We recently had our East Montgomery County Fair, and we received notice last Tuesday that at our board meeting that our participants at the EMC Fair received $146,650 at the auction without add-ons, and very proud of our own Ryder Lear for donating his proceeds to the Adams family. Wildcat Band received their first division ratings at their UIL marching contest last week for the 5th year in a row, and are competing in the area meet at Lindale this Saturday at 3 o'clock p.m. So wish our Wildcat Band the best of luck there. Our Air Force Junior ROTC got 2nd and 3rd in the rocketry meet. Team tennis advanced to area. 5 high school choir students made the performance choir at the region choir auditions. Kaylee McClellan and Lori Aber competed in swimming last weekend in Nederland. Lori placed 1st in the 50 freestyle and 1st in the 100 breaststroke. Kaylee placed 2nd in the 200 freestyle and 2nd in the 100 backstroke. So very proud of Kaylee and Lori. Today, our Lady Cat cross-country runners competed at regionals. High school sophomore Avery Colberth, the high school drumline, cheer, ROTC, and dance team, and the Piney Woods Troublemakers are performing at the Texas Association of Curriculum and Development Conference in Houston this week, so we're very proud of them. Thank you so much for representing Splendora ISD so well. The junior high theater students did an amazing job in their Charlie and the Chocolate Factory performance. I went on Thursday night. It was fantastic. Kids did awesome. Volleyball will be making the playoffs. We have our last game on Tuesday, tomorrow night at Livingston. So we'll be getting more playoff information out about them. Our last home football game is this Friday night, and it's senior night versus Livingston. So come out and support our Wildcats. And the biggest news of the day, the Rabbit pulled it off in the end and won at Greenleaf's annual Tortoise and the Hare race. I know we were all waiting to see who would win that race, and I just brought it to you. The Rabbit won. So those are just a few good things that are going on across the district. We start every meeting, every class with good things, and we wanted to do the same tonight. So very proud of all the things happening in Splendora ISD. We're so happy that our kids are able to showcase their talents and passions. And it's one of the reasons we're coming to you tonight. Just as you know, Splendora ISD, hopefully you know, Splendora ISD is called a bond. Early voting started today, October 24th, and runs until next Friday, the 4th, I believe. And then election day is on November the 8th. So all I can do tonight is talk to you about the specifics around the bond. I can inform you. I'm not going to ask anybody to vote one way or the other, but I would ask you to vote. I think it's part of our responsibility as citizens to vote in our democratic elections. And so you can see from my sticker, I voted this morning. I was one of the first to vote at our EMC Community Development Center right off of First Street. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So the purpose of tonight, like I said, is just to inform folks that are on here about our bond. I've been doing lots of presentations to different groups, started faculty meetings last week, had one today. So just want to clear up some misconceptions that may be out there, that answer some questions you may have, and give you some information in case you haven't heard about the bond or have more or need more information about what's in the bond. So last April, we started having community bond steering committee meetings. We met 6 times. There were about, the first meeting we had around 70 folks, community members, staff members that came together and looked at the district's needs and what issues we were facing. And so I'll start there. So our district is facing 2 big problems. The first is rapid growth. So I want to address that right now. We commissioned a study from our demographers, PASA, about a year and a half ago to give us a 10-year projection on what our growth was going to be by 2031. So they only do 10 years at a time because it's really difficult to extrapolate beyond that and try to guess on what the market's going to do. And PASA came in, they talked to all the developers who were working in Splendora ISD, and they projected that by 2031, we will have 14,000 students in our school district. So as we sit here today, we roughly have 4,877 students. Part of that passive projection was for us to have 4,726 students by the end of this month. So we're already beyond the projections that PASA set forth. By 2025-26, we're projected to have 8,000 students. So as you can see, we're growing rapidly. We have 6 campuses, 4 elementaries, a junior high, and a high school. And by 2025, we're going to be at or over capacity at every single campus that we have. So there's a couple of ways that you deal with that growth. The second, and I'll talk about that in just a second, the second major problem that we're facing is aging facilities. So on the east side of our district, Peach Creek was built in 1964, Greenleaf was built in the early 80s, and we are continuing to spend a lot of money primarily in our HVAC, plumbing, and some of the major building systems to keep those schools going and running the way they should be. So the steering committee was presented that information and ultimately recommended to the board that we go for 2 different propositions on our bond. Now, some people have asked me in my presentation, what is a bond? A bond is basically like a mortgage. So we don't have the money to just build new schools, right? So we have to go to the voters to ask for those large capital projects. So basically we're funded, we have 2 pots of money, 2 buckets of money that run our school district. The first pot is our maintenance and operations. That's like our checking account. So that's where we pay our teacher salaries, all of our personnel. About 83% of that budget is personnel costs, right? And then we also have what's called a fund balance, F-U-N-D, not F-U-N, a fund balance that is kind of like our savings account that we use when we have savings out of our budget. And that money, we have to have a 3-month operating supply so that we can continue to make payroll. So that's not a bucket of money that we can, readily all the time use to build schools. The second pot of money is our interest and sinking. That's our debt service. So when we have the need for large capital projects like we have in this bond, we ask the voters to vote in a bond. So the community steering committee brought forth 2 propositions, and we have lots of literature that we've been passing out. You should have received a postcard in your mailbox. We've also been passing out bookmarks that have the voting dates and the locations on the back. In early voting, you can vote at any precinct in Montgomery County. What we're saying is the easiest and closest one to us is the East Montgomery County Community Development Center, the old YMCA on 1st Street. And then all of our materials have a QR code on them that you can click on, and that will take you to our website. And our website is the best place to go to get information regarding this bond. It recaps every single meeting that the Community Bond Steering Committee, every meeting that they had, what was discussed, what was presented. There's frequently asked questions. There's information about each one of the props that I'm going to go over in just a second, propositions. And then there's also a tax calculator, and I'm going to touch on that in a minute as well. We also have flyers that talks about the information on the front and on the back. It talks about our tax rate historically for the last 5 years. And so over the last 3 years, Splendora ISD has dropped its tax rate 21 cents. So I want to put that out there. I'll come back to that in just a minute. So, our board, our district, we really try to be great stewards of our taxpayer money. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we bring this bond in on time and under budget. So what's in the bond? So we have 2 propositions. The first, Proposition A, and let me point something out here. These are not either or. When you go to the ballot, I went this morning, you will see both of those propositions listed. You can vote for both. You can vote for one and not for the other, or you can vote against both of them, right? So like I said, I can't tell you how to vote, but I wanted to make sure that you didn't think it was an either or. I have to vote for this or not this one or whichever. You can vote for both if you choose. So Proposition A for $201 million is an expansion to the high school. So right now, our high school has the capacity for about 1,550 students. The steering committee felt like it was, in this bond, we wanted to do an expansion to 2,100 for the high school. And the reason we didn't want to go higher than that is because we would have had to expand all the core infrastructure at our high school. So the offices, the cafeteria, we just did a cafeteria expansion a couple of years ago. And at some point over the next 10 years, we're going to have another high school. The steering committee felt like right now wasn't the time. And so we're looking at an expansion to the high school to increase capacity to around 2,100. A new junior high school. And I know you're going to have questions. Where's the junior high school going to go? We're working on land sites. I've told every faculty meeting, I've told all the presentations, everyone that's been there, we don't have the site designated yet, but we are working on a couple of sites. And the other question I get about junior high is, where is sixth grade going to go? As you know, sixth grade right now is at our elementary campuses, and the reason we did that was because we did not have capacity at our current junior high to have 6th, 7th, and 8th. So that is being discussed right now. In the last legislative session in November of 21, the last bond election cycle in November 21, the legislature passed a law that says we have to have an educational specification philosophy for any large capital projects. So right now we're in the process of doing that. And that's really looking at, what's our flexibility standard? Do we want to have more of an open concept? Do we want to, do that? And then we also are looking at grade alignment. So there's lots of things being discussed about sixth grade. There's a possibility that we'll have a sixth grade center temporarily. There's a possibility using an existing facility. There's a possibility that we'll have 6th, 7th, and 8th. There's a possibility that we'll have, we've talked about a 5-6 campus and a 7-8 campus. And then we've also discussed leaving it the way it is now, pre-K through 6. All of those things have different implications as we progress further throughout the rest of this decade. But for our purposes tonight, just know that where sixth grade goes is still under discussion, but a lot of folks are involved in having that discussion. 2 elementary schools to replace Greenleaf and Peach Creek. So remember, the second problem that I talked about was aging facilities in those 2 campuses. The committee felt like before the growth really hits, where we're seeing 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 students a year, that we needed to get in front of that and replace those 2 campuses. As I said before, we continue to pour a lot of money into those 2 campuses, and we want to make sure that we get in front of that before the growth hits, right? Land purchases, we're constantly looking for more land. When you have 14,000 kids on the horizon, we know we're going to need to build more schools over the next 10 years, and so we need land to do that. So we are working on that. And then other district improvements. If there are needs that we see, if we see bond savings, there are some other things that we can address. And a lot of folks in the community have asked me, what would those other district improvements be? I mean, there's a lot of needs. We have more needs than we have resources to meet those needs, and so we'll look at that as that time comes. Proposition B, the second proposition, is for $24 million, and it's for a 1,000-seat performing arts facility. Currently in our district, the largest auditorium that we have, the only auditorium that we have, is at the junior high, and it seats 250 people. So we've had to have band concerts outside. Our band has had to go to different school districts to have Christmas concerts. And the committee felt like it was time to address a need in fine arts as well. So those are the 2 propositions, totaling $225 million for I'm going to say this, a maximum potential tax impact of 1.7 cents per $100. And the reason I say a maximum potential is because of the growth that we are experiencing and the rise in our property values. We may not see that whole 1.7 cent tax increase per $100. And so I want you to, if you have an opportunity, either now or when this Facebook Live is over, at some point in the next couple of weeks, please go to our website at splendoraisd.org. And on that page, on the bond page, you will see a tax impact statement and you will see a tax calculator. So the tax impact, if you're over 65 and you file for that exemption, you will not see an increase from this bond whatsoever. You will continue to pay the taxes that you're paying. Also remember that the Montgomery County increased the homestead exemption from $25,000 to $40,000. So you should start seeing that as well. And so look at your assessed value on your tax bill, not your appraised value, your assessed value, the number that you get taxed on. And on our page, on our bond page, you can go to the tax calculator. You can put in your assessed value, and it will tell you the maximum potential increase that you could possibly see if both propositions pass. So the average price of a home in Splendora ISD is around $189,000. So when you put that in, I think it's an increase. Dietrich's over there at the computer. I want to say it's $32. So you can add your assessed value in, and then you can see what that potential impact would be. It's entirely possible that because of the growth that we're experiencing, that we may not see that large of a tax impact or a tax impact at all. But as we sit today, that's what we're required to say. Let me pause for a glass of water. Yes.
31. For $180,000?
$31. I apologize. I went over by $1. So, as I've said before, we're continuing to grow. I talked about the fact that we have dropped our tax rate 21 cents over the past 3 years. This bond election is very important for our school district. And I want to talk about that right now because I've had a lot of people talk about or ask me what happens if the bond doesn't pass. Okay? If the bond doesn't pass, the problems don't go away. The growth is still coming. So we have to find a place to put those students. And so if the bond doesn't pass, what we're going to have to do is buy more portables. And so on our website, you can see under frequently asked questions how much portables cost and what that means to our budgetary impact. So you remember before I talked about our M&O budget where we pay personnel and supplies and things out of our checking account. So if we were to buy portables, that would come out of that pot of money. So $150,000 for 2 classrooms for 1 portable. That's to get it everything. That's to run the electricity and get all the things we need to do that. If we have to buy more portables, that could potentially impact our personnel costs, right? When you have 83% of your budget dedicated to personnel, that's how we pay our teachers. We want to continue to pay our teachers competitive salaries. We love our teachers. They do a fantastic job, and we want to make sure that we can keep them here. It also would require us to spend less money on supplies and things that we need. And if the bond doesn't pass, as I've said before, the need doesn't go away, so we're going to have to go back out for a bond. And things 6 months or a year from now will cost more than they cost now. We've all seen construction, the price of construction going up since the pandemic. That's not showing any signs of abating. The other thing I want to talk about is, Houston is still the number 2 hottest market in the nation. So we don't see that need going away either. You see the developments going on across from the high school. That's Presswoods. It's eventually going to connect with Harrington Trails. 4,500 homes there. Townsend Reserve, just west on 2090 past Presswoods. That's another 1,200 homes. You keep going past that, you've got Signorelli's development at Dock Hollins in 2090. When that's all said and done, 7,000 homes, 20,000 residents, about the size of Brenham. Those are just 3. We've got MI at Texas going on right by the water park. That's another 1,000 homes. Pinewood at Grand Texas. Then we have Pinewood Trails on the north side of the district. That's another 1,000 to 1,200 homes. We continue to meet with developers who want to be in Splendora ISD. And there's other developments that I haven't mentioned. Splendora Fields is continuing to expand. We have Hillendale Ranch. We have Holigan. So all these things are coming in. And with those houses come students. And so I've had people ask me, why don't the developers build schools? That's not what developers do. They build houses. We respond to that as well. Why don't the new people pay for the bond? They do. The more and more people that move into our district, the greater that tax burden is dispersed amongst everybody. So again, you heard me say before that, that 1.7 maximum potential impact might not be that much because of all the growth. So in effect, those new folks are paying for those developments as well. So again, we've got about 10 minutes left. Early voting started today. It runs until Friday the 4th. I'm sure there are some questions that I need to answer. And then election day is November 8th. So all I would ask is let's model democracy and go vote. And like I said, it's a great day to be a Wildcat. We're excited about the future and what lies ahead. So at this time, I'll address any questions that may be on the chat. And my communications team, who's monitoring, will tell me if I left anything out.
No, you did a great job. There is one question.
Sure.
What will happen with the existing land where the 2 elementary schools are? So if you do pass it and you build those schools elsewhere, what would you do with that existing land?
Well, we love that site on the east campus. We also have a land and facilities committee that's comprised of board members, myself and Mr. Lynch, and then various community members from across the district. And those are kind of the conversations that we have in land and facilities, is what would that property be used for? So right now, Greenleaf is there, Peach Creek is there, our instructional services support building is there that houses our police department, our DAEP, our REACH, our special education staff, teaching and learning, technology, student services. There's a lot of people that are there. Our warehouse is on that side. Our maintenance building is there. Our food services on the East Campus. Then we have some buildings that we are not using, like the old pre-K building. The reason we're not using that would cost probably $1 million to $1.5 million to do some asbestos abatement. So a lot of those buildings will be torn down because it would cost too much to keep them going. As of right now, we haven't decided what's going to go on the east side. We know because I take Beckett, my son, to Rocking Horse Daycare on the east side every day. I know the traffic over there. And so we have been talking with the city of Splendora about some things. And for right now, we don't know exactly what will go over there, but we know that we will have Splendora ISD facilities on that site. It's such a great site. We want to put great buildings there as well.
Okay, so you're saying Peach Creek will not stay on that side?
No, it possibly could. So again, those are conversations that we're having as a land and facilities committee right now. We do own some property on the east side. In addition to that, again, like I said before, we're trying to get as much land as we can so that we can have some options, because the pace of growth that we're going to see is going to be extreme. And so we know we need school sites. So we own 30 acres at the intersection of Hillendale and Tram. I've been talking with Mayor Scott Anderson at Patton Village about water. So there's lots of things in discussion, but we just don't have that nailed down yet. But we will soon.
Okay, part of another question
Sure.
is blueprints and plans for multiple elementary schools that will be in new neighborhoods. Can you address this? Not sure I'm understanding the clarification.
So what we do, primarily Mr. Lynch and I, we've been visiting with different architects about different school site plans. We've been visiting other districts to look at their school sites at the elementary and the junior high primarily. So I think that's what the question's asking. So
our elementary schools in the new neighborhoods, you're already talking with those developers?
Yes, we absolutely are. Yeah, we absolutely are talking with every developer that we have in the district about potential school sites. So again, those negotiations are still fluid, so I can't really comment any further on that at that time. But in terms of like the blueprints and how that all works, I mean, each site is unique. But we like Timberlakes, but that's not to say that we won't go with a different design. It's a pretty efficient building, being 2-story, so we're always looking for the best design, that we can find for the best value, I guess is the way I should say it.
Let's see. Why not tear down the old building? I think you probably addressed this.
Mm-hmm.
Why not tear down the old buildings and then build the new schools on the same site? I think that you'd already said that we would have schools on that site.
Well, we'll have something on that site, right? So when we're growing at the student level, we're also growing at every other level, right? We're growing in administration. We're growing in maintenance. We're growing in transportation. We're growing in custodial. We're growing at all these different levels. So when you look at growth, sometimes it's easy to just say, well, we're growing at each campus. So we have needs as well. So we may have, some instructional. We may have some instructional folks at Peach Creek, at the existing Peach Creek, right? There are lots of things in conversation right now. So that is a good suggestion. The Land and Facilities Committee and the Bond Steering Committee looked at those options as well. So again, while we don't have that specific site nailed down right now, we're very close to making those decisions.
And again, some of these that I believe you've already asked about salaries, that's a different pot of money.
Correct.
And putting the costs on the new builders, developers, why should we pay for schools that our kids have already grown out of? I think we had talked about personally that's you're investing into your future, even though your own children don't go to school there anymore.
Yes, and our philosophy is good communities need good schools and vice versa. And so I know that's a question I get a lot. Why should I pay when I don't have kids in school? and somebody, when you were in school, someone stepped up and paid for a bond for that. And so I think that's just part of our responsibility. And like I said before, I know that's a tough conversation, right? I know our property values continue to go up, but it's not like an entry ticket to go into public school. We're required to educate every student that comes through our doors. It was a 1982 Supreme Court case. I don't remember the actual title of it, but I can get you guys that. And so we are required to educate everyone that walks through those doors. And we want to make sure that our kids have good facilities that are equitable, that are not Taj Mahals. I know that's been a popular thing to say. We want to have flexibility, and we want to make sure that our kids are going to school in very safe, clean buildings.
Okay. One question was, plans have been circulated that showed elementary schools. So are you saying these aren't concrete plans? I don't know if that was.
I'm not sure what that question.
I mean, I haven't seen any.
No, as far as I know, there's no plan circulating about elementary schools.
Those are not concrete, if they are. Traffic issues, we can't fix traffic issues. That's
correct. Really, so we are working with County Commissioner's Office and TxDOT. I know that it is on plans for 29 to be widened, but that is also the mobility piece. That is a big issue for us, and we want to make sure that the right people are at the table having those conversations. And I know developers want to help with those roads as well. So yes, we want to make sure that not all of our campuses are on one street. I think majority of them are right now, but that's the situation that we're in. So as we build future schools and look at future developments, we hope to expand that network of roads and improve the mobility across our district.
And also, traffic issues, also the two-tier system also kind of alleviates some of that when we have elementary coming in at a later time.
Yes.
So.
And again, guys, as we grow, we're going to look at our busing. We're going to look at different things. It's just having worked in fast growth school districts before. We're going to have to make changes quicker, right? We're going to be on a faster bond cycle than we've ever been, just because of that pace of growth. And it's here, and it's not going away. And so we need to get in front of it if we can.
And I think with the community bond steering committee's recommendations, replacing the two elementaries on the east side, that will help if we're able to disperse them off of 2090.
Correct.
So
yes,
Peach Creek, someone said Peach Creek has the worst traffic. They both do.
Mm-hmm.
But
when you have two campuses right there and railroad tracks, and you've got all the traffic coming from the east, it's difficult. And like I said, I sit in it every single day, twice a day. So I'm right there with you. So if we can move some of those campuses off and have them in different places, that will help alleviate some of that traffic as well.
And just a couple more questions, and then we can try as communications to answer those tomorrow if we're not getting to these. But the cops should help with traffic for safety. But wasn't that a dedicated? We need our officers on the campus.
Yes, so Chief Weatherly has been working with all of our different law enforcement agencies on the traffic issue. Our board a few years ago made the commitment to have an officer on every campus, and we try to keep those officers on our campuses as much as possible. And we do have our officers helping with high school dismissal. I mean, you have student drivers and 2090 traffic in the junior high, so we try to balance that as best we can. But I do know on the east side it's tough. I know that.
Okay, just the final question,
sure.
So we can wrap it up at 7:59. I'm concerned that the developers are going to come in, build at all the concrete in, and not standing homes flood, but possibly new school. What would you do to prevent this?
So the drainage requirements here are very strict, and so when we work with our engineers, we work with the developers to mitigate that drainage. I know that's a conversation and a question and a discussion we've had since Harvey, but there are lots of things being done in those developments to mitigate and help with the drainage. Lots of detention and retention ponds, but generally we have to meet certain standards for drainage, and we fill our sites to make sure that we're within those requirements.
Okay, that's it. If you want to wrap it up, and we'll try to answer any that.
Sure. And so communications will, if you still have questions, communications will work to answer those. We'll work to answer those by tomorrow. But I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. And those are great questions. And again, we want to answer them as well as we can. We may be doing another one next week. We're going to talk about that, another Facebook Live or Zoom, so that we can continue to provide information and ask any questions that arise. So again, thank you for entrusting your children and your tax dollars with Splendora ISD. We take those things very seriously. We're honored to serve this community and this school district. Have a good night.